This is the Crystal Chronicles, your Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia podcast, with Erolai, Kreese, and Mark, bringing you all your DissidiaFFOO news and talk. Welcome to Season 4, the LDBT era. Now let's start the show. Ikzo.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 145 of the Crystal Chronicles, your Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia podcast, recorded this March 25th, 2021. I'm your host, Mark, and I'm going to stop because Blartanian has asked us a question using his things. TCC host, you can see 8 months into the future thanks to JP Foresight, but can you see why the kids love Cinnamon Toast Crunch? No.
As I used to be a kid myself, I can.
Yes, it is delicious, but that shrimp inside of it, very, very disturbing. Well, we were doing a thing where if I got up to 50 subs over these last few weeks, I would let chat choose. So I want to shout out to Daniel and Infamous Element, Daniel with some gift subs, Raw Life with some gift subs, Dark Demon for a sub, Mistleton with 10 gift subs, Daniel with some more gift subs, Shalaster with 5 gift subs, Ito and DV Franklin for subs. Thank you. It is the shrimp tails that make it delicious, and string. Who doesn't like string? And you can Google that and check out the ongoing chronicles and how weird that's getting with the Cinnamon Toast Crunch scandal. Whether it's true or not, well, you can be the judge of that. But that's not why we're here. This is not the Cinnamon Toast or Saturday Morning Breakfast Cereal podcast. This is your Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia podcast. We have officially reached over 50 subs. Thank you. Continue to subs and support the show. I appreciate it. But I will let chat choose when we get to maybe Q&A, and I'll ask Arrow to help me with that. Which BT that I do not currently have that you would like me to choose. The options are Warrior of Light, Lightning, and Ultimecia. So think about your votes, and we will choose that later in the show. We'll do it live as opposed to doing it on a thing. So thank you all. Some other exciting news. And then I'll introduce my co-host. Final Fantasy VIII Remaster is now available on iOS and on Google Play on your phones or on your tablets. So it is on sale. I think it's $16.99 in the U.S. Versus $20.99 what it normally is. So you can get that. I already downloaded it on my phone and enjoy the best Final Fantasy on your mobile device. But I'm not alone to talk about all things DissidiaFFOO. I'm joined by my co-host, too. First is Arrow. Arrow, how are you doing?
Doing great. I had some good luck today. I signed up to get a COVID vaccine on Monday, this coming Monday. Nice. So excited. Yeah, it's been a great week. I've been very busy, but things are starting to calm down for me, and I should be able to hopefully start being more present, more consistently in chat and on YouTube and stuff again. That's about it. Back to you, Mark.
Thank you, Raw Life, for 5 additional subs. We might actually hit 50 subs this particular stream. But as I said, I will already let this stream choose. You've been so very generous. Thank you for that. And I'm also joined by Kreese. Kreese, how are you doing?
I am doing well. It's been a busy week. Good news is that I am reaching the tail end of the chaos for this semester. So I am ready for things to settle down a bit. April will be a little quieter, hopefully. We'll see. I am hoping that things will be a little quieter and I might actually be able to get caught up on DissidiaFFOO content.
Woohoo! You are winding down, I am winding up. And so it goes in the great show of life. But that is good to hear. Nice to have some time to do some things. I've just started taking Thursday off, so I can spend Thursday morning focused on DissidiaFFOO because I don't seem to be able to do it any other time. Well, hey, some news. The first I want to talk about these, we got a big update. We'll talk about some of the specifics of the update, but there was a couple bugs that people noticed. The first bug was a hilarious bug where Tidus, who eventually will get an LD and a BT in the game in a few months, 6 months or so, and he becomes very, very powerful. He becomes top tier damage dealer. they somehow in the update kind of copy and pasted his follow-up accidentally into our game. So Tidus's follow-up, if you had him 2 out of 3, his EX 2 out of 3, he would do his follow-up attack on his skill 1, skill 2, maybe even HP plus, and it just said kind of 4 squares because it was just kind of an error message, and he would do his follow-up attack. And so there's some videos. Simply Lost, who was on last week, has a video on there. You can see that. It's already patched 24 hours later, but it is kind of funny. There's also another video circulating Reddit and Discord about a Cloud BT thing where the BT phase kept going and going. I believe that is fake. There's been no evidence that that was ever actually in the game. There was just kind of an shadily edited, maybe even too, video, and so there was never any confirmation that was an actual bug. The Tidus bug was definitely in the game. We had lots of proof of it. Both of those things are fixed regardless, but it was funny. Arrow, did you play around with that? I think your Tidus is 3 out of 3, right?
Yes, but I did not take the time to do it. I did watch Simply Lost's video though. It was great. That was enough for me. Also, he took Tidus to the Theodore Lufenia fight with the Centipedes, and he had Paladin Cecil and Balthier. So that's another video you can watch on his channel. I just linked in the chat the basic video where he showcases it at the daily catch war. Anyway, back to you, Mark.
Yes. Kreese, did you have any? I'm going to respond to you in here in a second, Kreese, but did you have any experience with these glitches or notice anything else?
I did not get to experience the glitches because I didn't have a lot of time, or I didn't play much yesterday. I was pretty exhausted. So I just kind of chilled and watched the chaos from afar. I got to see some videos, especially of the Tidus bug, which was amusing to say the least. I thought it was very funny. But for the most part, I just sat back and watched people have their fun.
And it is fun when we find those things, and it wasn't game breaking. They didn't even have to take it out. Just it may have caused some issues down the line, so fine. But it's just one of those silly things. It certainly Tidus is not in a place where he's very usable right now, but he will become much more useful. We also have a ton of costumes, so they are all repeat costumes. Although a couple of our, or at least one of our upcoming costumes I thought was a repeat, and it is not, so that's fun. But Gabranth, his helmetless costume, Squall's costume, his seed costume, Cloud's Cloudy Wolf costume from Advent Children, and both of Lightning's costumes are on sale if you have missed them. And so please pick them up and support the game. Now, we also had a Squex community stream, and we welcomed our new Squex community, or new DissidiaFFOO community manager, Squex Crystal. I don't know why people have to be so weird about it, but there was a lot of moderation going on during the stream because people can't seem to behave themselves. And
is the reason.
We can't have nice things when people act like idiots. So like community streams. This is not, Glacy has stepped down. She's on other projects right now. That was they let us know last stream that there's been some others. There's some upcoming games I think we've talked about last week that have been announced, and so Glacy was already working primarily on other projects, and so Squex Crystal is now working with DissidiaFFOO as she was working on Kingdom Hearts Union, and that game is ceased to operate. So now she's working on DissidiaFFOO and maybe some other things as well. And so they are definitely both on Squex Joshua and Squex Crystal. So feel free to welcome Squex Crystal, but don't be weird about it, people. The first of several exciting updates I think we need to talk about is Auto Plus. So yes, we got Auto Plus. I believe we got it early. If you're not familiar with Auto Plus, it is amazing. When you go into a fight, you can choose Auto Plus, and it uses skills instead of just Brave, and HP attacks, and it generally goes through the skills in a cycle. Now, you can go to Tonberry Troupe under their roles right now, although Inkwelder may change this. I heard this talking on their stream last night. But you can kind of see ideal auto farmers, and to really expedite your auto farming, you need to actually remove skills, so they only use the skills that are most valuable. For example, Yuffie's skill 2, various characters skill 2 or LDs, and so that it makes auto farming very, very easy. Arrow, have you had any experience with Auto Plus yet?
I have. I was doing it some before the start of the show. Palom's amazing now. Oh my gosh, he's such a good auto farmer. I'm so happy. And I will be using my ×2 30-minute books at last to grind the heck out of some crystals. It's been fantastic. Kreese, have you had a chance to do anything with Auto Plus?
I have not tried it yet. It does seem very cool, but I usually try to manually do stuff rather than run stuff on auto farm. I will give it a shot at some point, but for now I've just been running stuff manually. It's kind of hard to break habits, let's put it that way.
Well, ABC127 says, for full analysis of Auto Plus, go to the general chat in our TCC Discord, because we had talked a lot about it, and Ink did move auto farming to the top of the guide section of the Tonberry Troupe website, tonberrytroupe.com, and so go to the guide section, and you should be able to find auto farming, and he breaks it down by seconds. Yuffie and Porum, the boy, are the best in terms of World of Illusion, crystal farming, token farming, artifact token farming. If you want to use some of the heavy hitters, you can bring them to the crystal, and they're good at crystal farming too, but they can't one-shot the cactars with a K. So, but yeah, you can kind of find your own groove, your own team, depending on how much time you want. It is going to help a lot with ultimate summon grinding, because that can really be a pain, and you can actually auto farm, especially if you pull. That's why in my tier list video, you can check that out on YouTube, for April, Celeste and Emperor, if you don't have them, pick them up, and you can auto farm through that with one other character, no problem. Going to be a breeze. It's going to make our lives much, 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 much easier. And yeah, if you brought Squall, he can pretty much auto farm for any hard content for quite some time, at least Cosmos or lower. So yeah, and Cloud's not bad for auto farming as well. Yeah, so with their full kits, of course. So Celeste, she is good. We'll talk about her next week or 2 weeks from next week. I think we're going to talk about Celeste. You can check out Hey, I'm Carrie. You can check out my tier list for full information on that on YouTube, TCC Podcast, or the Crystal Chronicles on YouTube. And I break that down. But we will talk about her kit in full detail next week. And she is good. She is good. Hey, we also got 10 ticket draw. Very exciting. Arrow, are you going to use 10 ticket draw, or are you going to go single tickets?
I have already used 10 ticket draw, and when I'm definitely going to start using it when I do ticket draw gotcha videos again. I just haven't wanted to do videos for gotcha for a little bit, but I am planning to do some next month. Don't worry, guys. And 10 tickets is going to make pulling on videos so much faster. It's going to be so much more efficient for everybody in general. Big time saver. I'm always all for time saving for people, because sometimes we play this game and we just don't have a lot of time that day to fuss around with things. And now with 10 times ticket pulls, maybe people will get in and out of some of these banners faster too. Because, the server overload's kind of funny when some of these banners drop, like, I don't know, the Start Dash one we just got yesterday. Anyway, that's all I've got to say. Kreese?
I have not used the 10 ticket draw yet. I believe what we've spoken about it before. Mathematically, it does not work out in your favor. Only do it if you do not care about ticket efficiency and you want to save time. That's the way it's going to work, because you will always run into instances where you might end up with a situation where the first ticket you would have spent in that 10 ticket batch would have given you what you're looking for when you're ticket pulling. That's just the way it will potentially work out. It will save you a lot of time if you were pulling rather than pulling ticket by ticket by ticket. especially if it turns out your luck is shit. To put it simply.
Well, yeah, it would have the 45 minutes I spent pulling for Gabranth's LD, the 360 some tickets it cost, certainly would have taken a lot less time. Mino, you jumped on. Did you have something to say about 10 ticket draws?
Nobody can condemn 10 ticket draws. What a scam! Okay,
I just said that it's for efficiency only. Don't do it if you want to save ticket, or if you don't want to be efficient.
That's fair. But I feel like there needs to at least be a disclaimer on 10 ticket pulls. You know how like cigarettes have disclaimers from Surgeon Generals?
Yes, please,
like yes,
DissidiaFFOO Surgeon General, give us the disclaimer.
You know, yeah. Like if you buy alcohol, like there's disclaimers on there. Like there's disclaimers like yes, it's an option, but you should know the risk of doing it. And a lot of people don't seem to know the risk. A lot of people who have been begging for 10 ticket pulls because they're gonna hide behind the it saves time. And let's not bullshit. No one's staring at the screen for 2 hours at a time when they're hitting the single ticket draws. Okay, the whole thing is it's manipulating you on purpose, because if you go to the 10 ticket draw, they even tell you, they're like, there's an asterisk at the bottom, and the fine writing says displays results in order of rarity, not the order you pull in. God forbid, like not what you're actually getting. It's displays it in order of rarity, so you don't flip out when you could have gotten that EX or LD on the first ticket and then 9 tickets down the drain. And before people are going to defend it and say, well, tickets are plentiful, I'll gladly throw at least like maximum 9 down a drain per pull, per banner. We've already seen people in main cord and the subreddit say, oh, I wanted to try my luck. Like people do the 13 ticket challenge. They're like, I'll throw a few tickets. And then I've already seen people say, I wanted to originally, like I didn't even want this character. I thought I'd try like 10 tickets. Next thing I know, I'm missing 170 tickets or something. Or like, I didn't even want to pull on this banner, but I started doing the 10 ticket pulls and I'm down 200 tickets. And it's because it's making it easier to pull that trigger, right? Like it's making it easier to hit it, and it looks like a multi. It feels like you're pulling a multi. The serotonin, those endorphins are rushing. They want you. It's a scam. If you can't, I don't know about you guys. I pull when I watch TV. This does not take up any of my actual time, and I feel like the only advantage it can give you, the quote unquote saving time. First of all, you guys aren't streamers. You're not on the streams like pulling and trying to be like, oh, I'm sorry that I'm wasting your time. Like, come on. You're pulling while you're like cooking or you're on the toilet or you're watching TV. It doesn't actually take any time. So the disclaimer is it is definitely there to get you to pull more recklessly. And you can indulge in it, but just know that.
Well, as someone who uploads pull videos, I am grateful for it because it makes editing pull videos much, much easier. So
I guess I have very different pull patterns. I don't pull unless I plan to spend a sizable amount of tickets on a banner going for something. I've changed my pull strategies pretty substantially in the LT era. So I don't just say, hey, I'm just going to spend 10 tickets on this banner. No, it's I'm going to spend I'm ready to spend like up to 200 tickets on this banner, or I'm not pulling at all.
Right. And Crease, I'm glad you brought that up, because like anything, it's targeting a certain demographic, right? Mm-hmm. Like just like free multipulls, how we have 11 free multipulls. Like if you're disciplined enough, free multipulls are great. Like for example, if you were only going to go tickets on Celeste, you hit the free multi and you're like, okay, fuck it. And now you start spending your tickets. But for others, and I'm sure everyone in the community has seen this, they'll hit the free multipull, get an EX or an LD or a BT, and then all of a sudden a character they didn't want, they start pitying 75k, 125k to complete the set. We've all seen that all over the place. And that's the demographic that 10 ticket pulls are targeting, right? Like, of course, there's going to be savvy enough people who use it to their advantage, but there are always going to be a lot of like more ignorant or weaker-minded people where it causes them to spend a lot more than they originally planned to.
Well,
Okay.
Jay Dota says 100% agree with Mino. That's never good. Mistleton says it saves finger pushes and my hands are not in good shape. I am with you there, Mistleton. My tendonitis is not feeling good since my second COVID shot. And Yoshi Pasta says, so would you rather do 1 ticket at a time during lag instead of 10 tickets at a time during lag? You know, in response to that, in Mino's camp, just pull the next day.
Yeah,
Like,
thank you, Mark.
You don't have to pull.
There's no gun to your head saying you have to pull through the insanely terrible lag, because I don't fucking, like, come on. That's just you wasting your own time at some point.
As a content creator and who wants to get videos out quickly to get more views, I mean, it's going to save me editing time and it's going to save me time through lag when I do those ticket videos. So that's going to be nice. Let me just kind of quickly go over some of the other updates, and then we can talk about them in general, because I know there's at least one Mino really wants to talk about. We got Illusion Board UI update, so it will tell you how many boards you can unlock with the points that you have, which is nice. So that's for divine boards. There is an M instead of a 4 when you've mastered your LD boards. Exciting. Isn't that nice? Or your training boards, I should say. So if you have the LD boards, it says M instead of 4, just like with summon boards. HG armor, which is your armor that you buy, the high armor that has 2 different types, is now not HG armor, but 2 different CPs. It is HG armor 1 and HG armor 2, which again doesn't really make a big difference, but it can be a little helpful. The best, in my opinion, the best update, the 20-second co-op timer. So it's gone from 60 seconds of misery to 20 seconds of misery, and that's a lot less misery in my mind. I am very appreciative. Jovial Roger says, Mino, people are weak-willed and just have to have the will not to pull immediately. Well, that's life. 60 seconds was rough, especially in launches. And so I'm for 5 seconds, but I'll take 20 seconds. Now, a couple other things that I want to mention. Aerith was announced. We're going to get the Sunflower Weapon Gloss, and she was announced, but she was not given a date. So we know her banner, which in Japan was kind of its standalone banner during the Emperor cycle. It's going to happen sometime this month. We don't know when. Sarah, who we were anticipating to come because she's on Y'shtola's cycle, was not announced. So we're not really sure what that means. Might not mean anything. Just realize that Aerith was announced, but there's no date attached to her banner. Sarah was not announced. But what was announced is now that eldnarsh is going to get his LD, he's actually going to get his LD board rework early. So eldnarsh is coming back with an LD and LD boards, of course. But in a few months, he's going to come back with a BT because he is the burst weapon character for the villain for Final Fantasy XI. And at that time, he got a rework to his LD boards. They are giving us that rework early. Interesting. So among all of those things that I talked about, the UI updates, the co-op, Sarah Aerith, eldnarsh Arrow, anything from there that spurs your interest?
20-second co-op timer. Oh man, I do a lot of random co-ops, guys.
Nice.
So for me, 20-second co-op timer is huge because it means if somebody does wind up just lagging really bad or AFKing for whatever reason, now I don't have to sit there for a minute over and over again for that player's turn. It's once and done. Like they'll start doing auto plus. That's cool with me. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Kreese?
Same. I agree. The 20-second co-op timer is huge. I've definitely had those instances where someone just lagged out, didn't leave or disconnect, but definitely was just sitting there, taking the 60 seconds to brave every time. They just put their phone on idle and walked away or something.
Yep. And Zerathi reminds us that co-op, the auto timer, when the timer goes off, it will use auto plus instead of regular auto. So now those idiots will use their skills.
The co-op change has me like, I like the change in theory, but in my small sample size, 20% of my runs, people are AFKing on purpose now.
So you think more people are going to AFK because of this?
I think so, because there's no way it's a coincidence. I've run like 15 co-ops since the drop, and at least 3 of them had people deliberately join and AFK and just leave.
Can you? I didn't think to check it out. I thought of it and I didn't check it out. Can you auto plus in co-op, like?
No, you can't.
Intentionally? No, okay.
No. So that's why
that would fix that. I mean, if we could just all auto plus co-op, then who cares?
Right. But what I am really worried about is that people will take this as it's okay to now AFK farm co-ops. And like I run books with Pug sometimes. It's kind of my fault that I'm losing time. But no, seriously, I think something's going to click in a lot of people's heads. Because a lot of people don't even like running co-op. They'll be like, "Oh, fuck it, I can just join a game in AFK and get all my stuff." And I'm starting to see that a couple times. I did 3 co-ops where at least one person did it, and then one where both people did it. So like, I don't. It's slowing co-ops down if that happens. But
chat seems to think maybe it was just people trolling you specifically. And Juan is saying, are we going to get surprise Belthier LD boards because he comes back on one of the Y'shtola banners? So I doubt it, but we can always hope, Juan. We can always hope. Dream big. That's what we're all about here on the Crystal Chronicles. I think there's just as likely a chance of getting Belthier's LD boards as getting Sarah's Sarah rework or whatever Ink thinks we're going to get. Which I think is nothing. I think we may not even get Sarah. I think that's how bad it is. Kreese, anything else from all those updates?
I've done a handful of co-ops tonight, and I haven't noticed people intentionally AFKing. So, again, small sample sizes so far.
Yeah,
I have to do more.
No. So, Mino, did you want to just talk about how excited you are about eldnarsh?
No.
Okay. Are you going to come on that? Are you going to come on that week and defend his honor?
Maybe, but I mean, for the sake of saying things, I'm sure it might have been a coincidence. But after the last time I was on the show, and my rant was, just give more power to players, you lose nothing, right? This is a perfect example of it. I mean, Kamlanot and eldnarsh are in the very, very same boat, where Kamlanot's LD dropped and his LD boards gave him a rework. It's a little different because he didn't have LD boards back then, right? But the point is he got a big boost 3 months later that they could have moved up and more people would have pulled, because a lot of people are saying, well, he just gets his rework, I'll pull him later. And eldnarsh is already starting to turn heads in a similar way, where people were just like, oh, because I'm reading all these Facebook posts and these should you pulls, and before it was announced that he was getting his rework early, they're like, if you really want eldnarsh, just wait for his BT to come back. That's when he gets a lot stronger. And now people are like, oh, this changes things, right? Like eldnarsh is going to be a lot stronger earlier, so I might actually want to pull him earlier and try it out. So it's just always good to make people stronger. There's like, what does Square Enix lose? These are digital goods, right? Like it costs nothing to mass produce these.
No, I agree. I mean, any
the hype cycle might be built up on eldnarsh a little more for Orbital now.
I mean,
right.
any time, Joshua, Crystal, the people who are in the community can get a sense in the global community that, oh, this banner, this cycle is going to be skipped on. It only benefits them. Like, I mean, the Y'shtola cycle, I mean, I bet there would have been all kinds of people just skipping that. And I mean, Y'shtola is a favorite for many, but I bet there would have been a lot of people just skipping completely, if not that we knew Y'shtola's BT was going to be so powerful. And so, I mean, that does. Thank you, Sipes and Lionheart, for the subs. Good to have you with us. And Yoshi Pasta says Sarah can be used as a call for stacking Max Brave down. Infamous element. Also note when Eld returns with BTJP got debuff limit increased. Oh, that's nice to know. That was at that time they get debuff increased to 8 per enemy, so that's really nice. But yeah, no, it only helps. So yeah, why not? And that's why I like the GL first LDs. Give it to us early and see what happens. As I said before, I don't think it would have hurt to give us the LD boards.
Right.
But obviously, Vincent's the greatest thing that's ever happened to us, and we should all be very excited about that. But I'm not going to say that on stream because I want Squex to feel bad about it still and give us his LD boards early. But he did make a good showing, as did Belthier in Transcendence. So very, very useful. Well, let's talk about that because that's the first thing on the tablet tonight is Dimensions and Transcendence. Before we get into the actual Transcendence, let's talk about Gabranth, who was featured on a banner for this event. So Gabranth was one of those late EX characters. He was the last new character to come to us without an LD during the LD era. So he was an EX Plus character without an LD when we've already had several months of LDs, or at least a month or so of LDs. So he was good in that era, but now he has come back with his LD and LD board. So, Kreese, can you tell us a little bit about Gabranth?
Gabranth's LD gives him a few things. And I guess we can go through... Do we want to go through his base kit again, or are we just going to cover his LD today?
If you want to briefly kind of cover what he does, that would be fine.
So I'm just going to cover basically how his kit works. Gabranth is a mixed... He focuses heavily on his debuffs, but the way he applies his debuffs is kind of a little different. He primarily applies his big debuffs by enemies getting turns to attack. And once enemies attack, he inflicts his 2 big debuffs, Criminal's Mark and Judgment. And then, if the enemies have Criminal's Mark and Judgment on them, he can apply generic variants of attack down and defense down with a couple of his abilities. Criminal's Mark and Judgment, and also he can apply a stronger version of Criminal's Mark, Outlaw's Brand under special conditions. I'm not going to go through all of them right now, but the basic idea is if he can get Outlaw's Brand up, he can start breaking or breaking with his skill 2 and his EX, which basically just makes him that much better. He gets some nice break shenanigans going on with some of his skills. And then his LD comes in, and it allows him to do what he's doing a little better. Things it does, it gives him a nice big AoE Brave plus HP dump. He didn't really have any... he had an AoE Brave attack with his skill 1 before. This gives him another one, which is also a nice AoE HP attack with that. It allows him to apply his debuffs. It's a nice, huge HP dump because it hits 3 times if the enemies are afflicted with Outlaw's Brand. It gives him a new unique buff called Prince's Keeper is the big thing it does. Prince's Keeper increases his stats a little bit. The big thing it does is that it kind of leans into his protective role by giving the party an HP damage reduction taken effect while it is active, which if you combine it with his additional ability effect, can bring the party up to 60% party HP damage for damage reduction taken total, since it's 20% from the buff and 40% from the additional ability. It's pretty nice when all things considered. If you have predictable HP damage coming in, Gabranth can reduce it pretty nicely. And that's basically what he does. He basically gets a nice HP attack, a way to reduce party HP damage and boost his own stats a little bit, and another AoE break unbreak effect. That's it. It's not fancy. It just does. It's a nice big attack with a nice little booster for his own utility in there. I don't think there's much else to say there. It's simple. It doesn't change much. Just gives him another button to push. I did not pull for Gabranth. I got his kit the first time, but I didn't really build him all the way. So I didn't really have an interest in pulling for his LD this time. Arrow, do you have any thoughts on Gabranth's kit this time around?
I think it's a really nice debuff protection kind of kit. It's sort of weird though. Like he's on the one hand he's this debuffer, but then he's also like it's like I guess like an off tank. I don't want to say that term. I feel like, but that's the closest thing I can think of offhand. Yeah. He's not for me. I don't like that he takes 4 freaking debuff slots that are all framed, by the way, if I remember right.
No,
three.
only
No,
Judgment and Criminal's Mark are framed.
Only 2.
The other 2 are generics.
Yeah, 2 and 2.
Okay, my bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, 2 frame buffs and then 2 generics. But like, you're pretty good debuffs. So if you're into that, it's cool. But again, he's just not somebody for me. So I didn't really pull. So I got nothing really extra to say.
He's all right. Like, the nature of his debuffs don't make me hate him that much because it's only 2 framed, and the others can be overwritten pretty easily. Yeah. So he's not terrible there. And then having like a Gao mechanic where his debuff counters kick in when anyone gets hit is kind of nice. He like Chris said, defensive debuffer, right? Basically lowers damage coming into the party and increases HP. A lot of people swear on his call being pretty decent, not godlike, but just being able to inflict HP damage up on targets is a call.
Yeah.
He's the first one for a while, and apparently anytime you just want to pump out a shit ton of HP damage, he's a very good call for that. Instant breaks, he has the most of.
It's a lot. And
it's a pretty good mechanic, but don't let synergy bias fool you. Anyone who's done Transcendence knows that for a very strange reason, none of these bosses are cleansing regularly. And so they don't cleanse, so it's very easy for him to keep up the debuffs and just keep on breaking. Yeah. But in a lot of other Lufanias, they cleanse quite regularly at their HP threshold. So you don't get, for example, like, I think if you try to go back to Kieran's Lufania, he can't get that instant break right away. He needs some setup time to at least S1 on his own and then do it and then break both targets. So in a fight like Kieran's, a more typical Lufania, he's not breaking everyone right away. Only in Transcendence did they say, fuck it, we're trying to sell Gabranth at any means possible. Don't let the bosses cleanse at all. And so while he has a lot, it's still conditional and set up, and there are other characters like Strago and in the future Null, and you got Arden, people who specialize more in instant breaks at the drop of the hat, whenever you need it. His is more long term throughout the fight, so it's not as on demand. I'm not a big fan of it, but debuffs reducing incoming damage, it's a thing. I'm just not a big fan of the kit or think he's truly necessary.
Yeah.
Infamous.
I was going to step in and say that the fact that Gabranth only needs 4 debuffs and 2 of them, he only needs 2 of them to be his own personal frame debuffs. The downside is those 2 frame debuffs have to come from the party being attacked after the boss cleanses, is a little bit of a soft spot for him to start breaking again. Mm-hmm. Which means he can't break on demand too easily.
Right.
But the other 2 debuffs can come from anyone, so once those buffs are back up, someone else can debuff, and then he can start breaking again.
Yeah, it's just an extra little setup cost,
Infamous Element was saying, he does work well with other debuffers because of that. So if you have multiple people putting up debuffs, even, people like Paladin Cecil who are putting on 1. I mean, if you have multiple people putting on even 1 or 2 debuffs, it's going to be much less of an issue. I have Gabranth. I had him back in the EX era. I liked him. This is my favorite part of Final Fantasy XII. I'm pointing at something you can't see, so that doesn't make any sense. But the whole judge backstory behind Final Fantasy XII is really my only thing that I like about Final Fantasy XII. I like Belthier's whole storyline and the judge storyline. Even though, I recognize Belthier is not the main character of Final Fantasy XII, even though you said that I did last night on stream on Black Nero's channel. I didn't
mean that serious.
I don't believe I ever have said Belthier was the main character. I certainly like him better than the main character, who I think is garbage, and pretty much the main cast of that game I think is kind of trash. But I love this backstory, and so I was kind of excited to get him, and I would pull for all the other dumb judges too. I've always liked their aesthetic too. And so I got it, probably too many tickets, over 300, but I was trying to get Paladin Cecil's Burst as well. And so, yeah, he works good. I think back in that era, I used him for a few fights and then didn't use him again, and that's probably what's going to happen here. I've used him on a few fights, and I probably won't use him very often. I wouldn't certainly break the bank to get him, but a lot of people are going back and pulling because they're struggling with Transcendence, and he will, depending on who you're missing, because Transcendence is fairly restrictive. We're going to talk about it here in a minute. He can fill in some pretty big holes and make your life a lot easier if you really want to finish Transcendence now. Now, Transcendence is permanent content. We are talking about it right now. And just to transition, it drove me crazy, and that's why I, made a little post of it on our social media. So many people were trying to beat it initially. Now, I get it. You're a content creator. You just want the challenge. It's fun to do new content. But people were struggling, and that's the thing. If you got through it, you're a good player. You knew what you were doing. You had watched some other videos, or you lie about not watching other videos, but you did anyway. You knew what you were doing. You knew what teams worked. Even if you didn't watch videos, but you knew the teams that worked, right? Like you didn't have nobody in GL had to figure it out. And anybody who says, "Oh yeah, I figured it out all by myself," that Cloud, Kais, and Dark Knight Cecil worked on Crucible too. No, you didn't. Come on. We all know that you didn't. Stop being an idiot. Just say, yeah, I saw that. Obviously, that's what people used, and I know it works. So I did it, and guess what? It worked. But a lot of people hitting their heads. I mean, talking people on our Discord, people on Reddit, people on Facebook, hours and hours and hours struggling. And they were using Cloud, and they were using Lightning. And just, we were getting their updates in a couple of days. This is permanent content. And even if you're still struggling because you don't have the right characters, hey, thank you, Jonas, for the subscription. It's permanent content. You don't have to beat it the day it comes out, the moment it comes out. And even if you don't beat it right away, the only limited time rewards in this first 2 weeks is 15 tickets. Is it even that many tickets?
19
tickets. So 20 tickets. That's a
like
decent,
19 bursts.
Yeah, that's 19 bursts. Except if you 10 pull, then it's nothing. It's 19 bronze. 19 bronze. But if you single pull, 19 bursts could be a possibility. But you still have a couple weeks. We're gonna get Emperor. We're gonna get Celeste. There's some other characters coming. Is it worth pulling? Depending on your resources, yes. Maybe it's worth pulling on Gabranth. Are you going to use him well into the future? I don't know. Well, let's talk a little bit about Transcendence and what it's all about. I just want to give you a brief overview of the structure. So this is like Dimensions End Entropy in that it locks characters, much like HaateXIII. I'm trying to get to gameplay here. And you'll see as you come onto the map, you go into the Dimensions End tab, and then you go to Transcendence, which is the fourth. And you'll see the first tier, Transcendence Tier 1. You see 3 little alcoves. They call them, I'll use the official name. This is not what we are referring to them as in our chats, but on the podcast, we will use official language. Crucible 1 is over here. Crucible 2 is over here, and then there is Reckoning, which is the middle. So to beat the Crucibles, you need 6 unique characters. You cannot use the same character here that you use here. and you have to have the crystal requirement. So there's a white crystal for Crucible 1. There's a blue crystal for Crucible 2. You have to use a white crystal, at least one white crystal user on Crucible 1, one blue crystal user on Crucible 2, and you have to get perfects. If you get perfects on both Crucible 1 and 2, you unlock Reckoning, and you get to use those 6 characters to make a team of 3. And then there's no crystal requirement, but you get to use those 6 characters to make a team of 3 for Reckoning. Crucible 1 and Crucible 2 are 1 wave each. Reckoning is 2 waves. All of them are Lufanias, so they all have a Lufania orb. We'll get into details that. BTs, so if you bring a character with burst, so you see I have Cloud on Crucible 2, I have Paladin Cecil on Crucible 1. If any character on your team has a burst weapon, the entire party gets synergy. Doesn't matter which burst weapon, as long as one of your characters has a burst weapon, the entire group is counted as synergy for the battle. So this does push you to get burst weapons. They are not required. You can beat this without a burst weapon. But it sure helps, just like synergy always does. So that's just kind of an overview of Transcendence. Arrow, anything to add before we go break down into the specific fights?
I think it's like a tradition at this point to make the first stage of Dimension's End always difficult. Like, do you guys remember the first stage of Entropy? That tripped so many people up. This is going to trip people up for a long time. And this is going to matter even going forward. This is a hard stage. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. I don't want to go too much into detail because the main thing I've noticed though with this is the amount of role coverage you need is insane for these stages. I know we're going to go into more details in a moment, but that baffled me. I'm like, wow, this is going to trip some people up to deal with because it's a lot. That's all I have to say until we actually go over everything, so then I can just add some extra stuff. I guess I'll pass it to Kreese.
I have not even tried this yet. Not too surprising, but no, I haven't even touched it. I might have what I need to tackle this. We'll see. Probably I'll have to wait to tackle the holy side until Kuja gets his LD boards and AD Awakening in a couple weeks, because while I have Paladin Cecil's LD, I don't know if I have a burst that I can adequately pair with it. We'll see. I got to think about parties to pair with him, or bursts to potentially pair with him. I haven't thought that far ahead. I know I'm good for the right-hand side. I just don't know about the left-hand side yet.
To answer some frequently asked questions I see all over the place, yeah, it's 6 characters locked in per tier.
Yeah.
Once they're locked in tier 1, you can't use them in any other tier in Transcendence. A lot of people have been asking about that. Yes, that does mean an average of 6 newish characters every 2 months and 2 BTs every 2 months. Ration for that. And this one sucked, man. This one was restrictive as shit.
I think this, in talking to some of the folks who have gone through it in JP, and JP is up to 5 tiers. We get 1 tier every other month, so you have some time between tiers. It's not like in Global where we got 5 at once and then 1 every month. But as talking to JP players, this was definitely probably the most restrictive of the first 4. I think maybe 4 or 5 is also pretty restrictive. But I mean, 5's still fairly new. But definitely looking back, I think of the first 3, this is the most difficult. Yeah.
Supposedly, yeah, restrictiveness wise, and you can see it because Scavenger Hunt. If you guys can find me 3 different runs that aren't using Pestle and Gabranth, and I'm saying you can have a Pestle, you can have a Gabranth. Yeah. Show me one that's not bringing both.
I'll break it down because I did look at the call to arms to try to get a snapshot of that. Yeah, it's not great.
It's not great. Like every okay, so I love to watch people stream hard content. So whenever an event like this drops, whenever I'm like working, I usually have like 2 or 3 DFFOO streams in the background. So watch what people do. And after the first day, I just stopped because everyone's running the exact same fucking teams. All right. So like the teams are always Pestle plus Gabranth, and then in descending order of ease. Well, now Cloud has LD board, so Cloud's at the top. But before it was Ramza, number 1 use 3rd, then Kais, then Cloud, then Gladio. And if 95% of all teams are those combinations, and it's just so boring to fucking watch, man. and what's worse is that I've seen so many people in the community go back and pity Gabranth just to do this. And that's such a shitty reason to pity a character, just to do one fight, because they wanted to make one fight easier. And but to Square Enix's credit, hey, good job. You designed a fight that made a lot of people pull a character they didn't want. Because let's be honest, in the beginning of the month, when they announced that Square Enix stream and everyone was talking about the characters coming up, a lot of people said, oh, Pestle 2 weeks is easy. I'll just pity his BT on the first banner because I don't want Kais or Gabranth. And then a lot of people went back to grab him just to do this fucking fight. If you caved, you're weak. I'm going to say that on the record.
Yeah, I'll break it down. Some people are talking in chat. I'll break it down because I don't think any of you have gotten through. There's actually 3 that he did not speak of, but I'll speak to them going through the data. And if you did not bring one of these 3, you didn't beat it, at least yet. And if you did, great, because it might be possible. So let's break them down one at a time. First, let's go to, let's see, Crucible 1, which is, if I can bring it up here, Crucible 1 is the target snipers. They're these robots. The orb is holy damage. It starts at a 10 count. It goes up 5 every time they take holy damage, which means you need a white crystal user, of course, but it means you need holy damage, constant holy damage. I don't believe, let me look here. I don't believe there are any runs without Paladin, Cecil, or Kuja. They are both holy enchanters, of course. I don't think I've seen anybody, if you in chat have a video you want to share, hey, K9 Word. But Theodore may have worked, but I don't think I've seen a Theodore-only run with that as well. Yeah, Paladin, Cecil, and Kuja definitely are the 2 that make this doable. There are a couple different strategies you can do. You can try to give the boss turns by having damage mitigation like Gabranth, Ramza, Strago, instant breaks. You need instant breaks. There's 2 major themes, launching and instant breaks. So just kind of overall tier 1, launching, instant breaks, damage mitigation's kind of secondary. So whether you have the instant breaks from Gabranth, Ramza, Strago, Caius, or Ardent X Death, or some HP damage reduction, Gladio was big in this, potentially Beatrix, Reno. 8 can actually dodge the attack, so that can be a strategy as well. Or you can use Arciella, or Kefka to do HP disable to do that. You can also use Lightning and Metatilion, although Lightning is generally preferred for Tier 2. BC usually says YouTube videos from JP runs is 1% of the player base. What percent is it for GL? Yeah, a very small percent, but it is the data that we have to work with, right? So as of right now, I mean, if I look at the call to arms, is the call to arms everything? Of course not, but it is a good sample size of the player base. And generally some of the better players, the average player is not doing crazy runs, right? I mean, the average player is going to do the easiest thing possible to get through it. They're not doing crazy runs. Yes, there's probably somebody who just happens to be super good and doesn't want to upload things, of course. But, the data that we have, the nice thing about the call to arms, it's the data that we have. It's what we have. And that's why we do it. That's why Macnol, DissidiaFFOO.com, that's why he does it. You can always upload your video, so we have it. But it's definitely something that we can do. And so, again, this is a podcast to equip people to succeed in this game. So we are going to give you tried and true strategies. Yes, there are other strategies, but likely the few people, the Belials of the world, the Pikajus of the world, the Rickies of the world who can get through these crazy, crazy team comps, that's not everybody. And so we're going to try to give you tried and true ways to get through this content. So Paladin Cecil, Kuja, I have not seen any runs without those two. If there are, great. Let us know. Upload a video with that. Because you need constant holy damage. And, Gabranth, Gladiolus, Arciella, damage mitigation, Jack, Theodore, Ultimecia, good damage options as well. So that's Crucible 1. You can see I brought Paladin Cecil, Gabranth, and Karen. Arrow, who did you bring for that?
I used Kuja, I used Dark Knight Cecil, and Arciella. Man, Dark Knight Cecil put in the work with that HP damage up buff or debuff that he puts on from LD. Complicated feelings about him, guys. I like the kit, still hate the character. There we go.
I am still sad my 700 or 800 tickets did not get me Dark Knight Cecil LD because he certainly would have been very useful here. Yeah, definitely would have been useful here. I know Kreese is not gotten to this. Mino, what did you use for your Crucible 1?
Peso, Gladio, Vincent.
Yeah, Gladio, definitely. Vincent, this is the one people used Vincent on. Vincent can be used in the Reckoning as well, and so Vincent does help here. And what was your experience using Vincent here, Mino? Do you remember?
Kind of caught in a crosshair because the last time I said Vincent was good, Jin and Magnol harassed me for a week. So pass.
Okay.
But what did I want to say about Left Nut? I think it's basically just HP damage up in launches because of the strict turns, and then the insta break. But a lot of people just went with HP silence lock, and then you just bring a quick insta breaker like Gabranth or Ramza, and you speed through it. A lot of people argued online which nut is harder, left nut or right nut.
Yeah.
And
depends on your roster.
Yeah, 100% depends on your roster.
Depends on your roster. Yeah.
Neither is inherently easier than the other. Some people just have more instant turn DPS, and some people just have more launchers. That's it. That's all it comes down to. So this one did give a lot of people trouble, but all you really need is an insta breaker, somebody to mitigation, of course, because the recast is fucking killer, and then as much burst damage as possible.
Yeah, Yoshi is saying the Crucible 1 has the highest DPS check along with Divine Diablo. So yeah, it's a 60 turn, I believe, for Crucible 1. So that is tight. So you do need significant damage. You can't just rely, or 65 turns. You can see I took 62 because Karen doesn't bring a lot of damage.
I'm actually impressed that you ran a Kieran. I haven't seen that.
Yeah, yet. So I'm missing out. Again, it just depends on your party, and I'm not real happy about my Crucible 2 run, and I'll talk about that in a second, because I really didn't want to use Cryo, but and I may go back and change it. But anyway, so I don't have Arciella. I didn't get her LD. I don't have Dark Knight Cecil. I didn't get his LD. I think those would have been ideal uses here on this tier. I did try to use Arciella without her LD, and it might be possible. I did get it pretty close, but eventually I just went back and did it with a LD character.
I think it's a good place to lock him. That's a really
I don't foresee needing him anywhere else. And he does holy damage. He supports the team fine. Does some batteries. So he was a fine choice there. I had no problem with that. That team.
Fidix asked a while ago. I was waiting for. He says, "Are all Transcendences moving forward gonna be biased towards the banner that releases with it?" Yes. Yeah. All content is biased towards the banner that releases with it. That's what we call synergy bias. It's just a lot more noticeable on fights that are tough and you didn't pull on. For example, a lot of people didn't notice that Lightning's Lufania, when her LDBT came, was one of the most restrictive fights in the game's history. But everyone pulled Lightning, so nobody noticed. But yes, all events are super biased towards their banner, of course.
So Pikachu is saying after Squall rework, we're going to talk about that in a little bit. I did Left or Crucible 1, which we were just talking about, with Squall, 0 out of 3 Warrior of Light, because Pikachu hates using Ignites, and Pestle. So, yeah, you can bring Squall to Crucible 1. And if you have Squall fully built, he will make life a little bit easier, especially if you have a Holy Enchanter with him. That makes it ridiculous because he will DPS check through those things real fast. But I didn't see a lot of Squall used in tier 2 or 3, so I'm not sure it's a bad idea to use him in tier 1. So you can go on and look, and again, it might be good. If you're if you're on stream, you saw my paid gems. I'm obviously not free to play. I've never said that I was. If you're not someone who has as many paid gems as I do, and pulls on every single banner, you may want to be a little bit more planning in terms of who you're going to pull, and you may want to look at some upcoming runs of these fights, because they are fairly restrictive, and they do prefer burst characters, and they do prefer some certain mechanics. So yeah, it might be good to plan ahead and kind of look and kind of see where you're going, especially since it's only one every other 2 months as opposed to every single month, and you just know you need a few characters. At the end of the day, if you pull regularly, you'll probably be fine, but you could come into a problem here on this tier if you're missing several characters.
What are the time limited rewards for this?
19 tickets.
Okay.
3 for each stage, and then 10 for the whole thing.
And you can just not get those and be fine. You will live if you don't get this beautiful, what do they call it, adamantium or adamantite purple. If you don't get a purple plate.
Yeah, I'll be fine missing the purple plate for a little while if I do end up having to wait.
The only disclaimer I want to throw out is that a lot of JP players like BC say as well that this tier doesn't really get that much easier over time because the mechanics required are so specific. Very, very specific. Like you're always looking for insta-breakers and launchers, and there aren't a lot.
Well, I think right. I think that's the problem. It's not like we're going to be getting, now there are some upcoming launchers in a few months, but again, do you really want to go back and use Zidane or Sid Reigns on this tier? But Holy Enchant, right? Holy Enchant.
Right. Holy Enchant.
We pretty much have 2 Holy Enchant options, or instant break launchers. Yeah, there's very limited options. So this is Sid Reigns.
If you really can't let this content go, these are the best banners for it. The synergy bias is that strong. I advise that if you're struggling really hard, just skip it. Come back way later. But if you're dead set on some reason pushing through this now to be ready for Transcendence 2, I hate to say it, but obviously these are the best banners available right now. Pulling Pestle, the Holy Enchant, it's super biased towards Pestle, Gabranth, Kais, Arciella.
Yeah, you can pick up Arciella, you can pick up Paladin Cecil, you can pick up Gabranth, and you can definitely help yourself out if you're missing a couple parts. Well, let's move to Crucible 2, and Crucible 2 is turtles. Everybody loves turtles, jeweled turtles. Their Lufania orb is launch related, so you have to do launches. Starts at the battle, pretty high count, and then disappears and then comes back. Again, starts at a pretty high count. Launch gives it +8, so you're generally okay. You need a blue crystal character. Cloud is blue crystal. He just got his update. But you definitely need lots of launchers. You need to launch them because of the orb. You also need to launch them to break their hard defense. When they get in this shell, they get into the hard defense mode, and you need to be able to break them by a launch. Well, you need to be able to launch them to break the defense. Then you can actually do brave damage, or you need to instant break. So instant breakers are also really useful in this one as well. Cloud, Kais, Dark Knight, Cecil, Ramza, those are your launchers. You're going now. I did see a Zidane run, but he had some help. Believe me, you can do it with one launcher and some good calls. I would generally suggest at least 2 launchers. Looking at the call to arms, it was generally at least 2 launchers. Cryo, Arciella are both really good at this as well. Again, I used Cryo for this tier just because she was able to enchant them, which allowed some extra brave damage. She's doing some boosted damage. She also was able to paralyze them. Arciella can do HP silence as well. But you can do any combination of the launchers: Cloud, Kais, Dark Knight Cecil, Cloud, Kais, Ramza, Kais, Dark Knight Cecil. Oh no, there's no blue in that one. Cloud's really useful with that. So you have to make sure you have the blue. But there were several different combinations of launchers, but I'm not really sure. If I look here at the call to arms real quick for Crucible 2, I don't know how many runs there were with just one launcher. So Cloud, Arciella, and Cryo, there's one. Other than that, Ramza 8 Dash. Wow, type next. Good job. That's a great run. Lightning with her BT, Cloud, and Kursame. That was Defo Luar. Interesting. Leviex, who's a friend of ours, did Lightning, Zidane, and Ramza. There's your Zidane run. Trying to see others potential. Ramza, Edward, Dark Knight Cecil, but Edward can run in there. Tano did Paladin Cecil. Use Paladin Cecil on this one, huh? Zidane and Kais. But yeah, generally speaking, unless you're doing some really strong HP mitigation, you're going to want a couple launchers. CSDX says Onion Knight, Kais, and Cryo. Interesting. Interesting run. Okay, yeah, I could see Onion Knight working well in there. So X-Death is a blue crystal. Yeah, interesting, Blartigan. I don't see any X-Death. Oh, yeah, no, there is. Yeah, there is. Blartigan did. In fact, Blartigan did an X-Death run with Ramza and Kais. So, and of course, with anybody with Gravity, Instant Break, really, really useful in this. So you can see, Dr. Squatch. You can see the text message from Dr. Squatch. That's always nice. You can see I used Cloud, Kais, and Cryo. I tried to get Dark Knight Cecil without his LD through. I got real close. But I could not pull it off, and so I did switch to Cryo to make my Blartanian. Yes, and I just made it life easier. Arrow, who did you use?
I went with the standard setup. I had Ramza, Cloud, and Kais. I did actually use Desil at first over Cloud, but then realized I needed a blue crystal character, and I figured I'll save Cryo for another tier. I have a feeling she might.
She's better she's good in tier 2. Yeah.
I had a feeling.
Yeah.
So yeah, something told me not to use her here, and I may wind up swapping out that Cloud later when I can figure out something with a different blue crystal, because I happened to get the burst recently from the start dash. So
yeah, I think Cloud, Kais, Dark Knight Cecil is probably the easiest run.
Yeah, but then if I do Dark Knight Cecil and Cloud over there, I have to put Ramza somewhere else.
Yeah,
It's just a mess. I'm like, I found it easiest just to swap the Cloud
and
out.
I didn't. Ramza's a great one here too. I chose against using 2 bursts per tier. I don't need to.
When I did run this, I didn't have the burst yet for Cloud, so that's kind of, you know what I mean? It just kind of wound up being a mess. So I'll figure it out later. And there's no rush. I've already beaten it. So
it is pronounced Cryo, which rhymes with vial. I believe we have determined that in previous shows, as opposed to krill or krilly or any other dumb thing.
I always thought it was Cryo. Even
it is Cryo.
Yeah, it is Cryo as far as I know.
So this is wild. But okay, so I didn't get to say it on the other tier, and I feel I need to say it now before we go any further. Is man, I feel like I massively undersold Arciela a couple weeks back. I did not realize how much she will help you on any of the stages in this tier. You can use her on any of the crucibles to just cheese because of HP silence, and then you can do it all over again in Reckoning. Dude, if I had known, and because I don't really watch too many JP videos, I think I would have put her as more of a must pull over, or dang near close to it, over just kind of like, oh, she'd just be fun to have, HP silence, woo, I didn't really understand what I was talking about a few weeks ago. So I'm apologizing now for that oversight. Just apologizing for the oversight. And guys, RCL is amazing on this tier, and I had to say it somewhere, and I figured right here was the best spot.
Well, as you can see, you can survive without her, but she really does well here. Mino, who did you use on Crucible 2?
I used the same team as Arrow, so that's Cloud, Kais, Ramza.
Mm-hmm.
Arrow. That was your team.
That's a real popular team, good team, and I don't think using Ramza and Cloud on this tier is a bad choice by any means, at all. Well, we get to the middle, which is Reckoning, Dimensions and Transcendence Tier 1 Reckoning. This is a two-way fight where you fight effects and flame masks. Are the flame masks new for us? They are, aren't they? Or have we fought them before? They're a new enemy type.
New enemy.
So you're familiar perhaps with the effects. They're these scary-looking ladies that float. The big thing is they have a Lufania orb, that goes up, ticks up every time they take 2 debuffs. So tailor-made towards Gabranth, because every time they attack, they get debuffed. And it's 1 debuff per, so 2 total. So anytime Paladin Cecil uses his LD or EX, they get ticked up. So it's not a terrible orb to deal with, and there's tons of calls that put on debuffs. So it's really not the worst orb in the world. Various times, at least 79%, 49%, and then various other times, maybe when they get lower, they go into this mode. I forget what it's called. Something rising. Somebody tell me what the actual thing is. Aqua Power, excuse me. Yes, thank you, Daniil. Aqua Power, which they gain about 70 depending on if you have debuffs on them. If you have debuffs, it's less. But I think if you don't have debuffs on them, 70,000 Brave, and they are not able to basically take any Brave damage until you break them. So you almost need some type of instant break or gravity effect. There are nice calls that allow you to do that. But you can get in trouble if you don't bring them down to 79 and 49 at the same time. So if you take one down first, and then they both do Aqua Power, and then you bring the other one down, then they both do Aqua Power again, it can be a little bit frustrating. There's a note in the Tonberry Troupe guide. Beautiful Tonberry Troupe guide for Transcendence, so check that out, tonberrytroupe.com. VL has shared, our friend VL, who does great. Check VL out on YouTube. They will gain blue aura after one of them is under 30% HP after they do their Banishing Gaze attack. Only one does the attack and will gain the blue aura. If the other does Banishing Gaze, it will also gain the blue aura. They have to take a turn or be broken to lose the blue aura. So yeah, they're not terrible, but really, really, really need to have some kind of instant break. Obviously, you need to deal with the orb and the debuffs as well. The Flame Mask, they are a new enemy. They are weak to Holy. Hooray! They absorb fire. Sorry, Vivi. Didn't seem to bother Vincent, but sorry, Vivi. And they don't start with a Lufania orb, but they get it at 79% of their health, and it does not disappear. And it freezes. It never ticks up. It only ticks down. It starts at 10 and ticks down. But it freezes when any ally is at 100% health. So it's not a terrible orb, especially with Paladin Cecil, to deal with. But it can be a problem if you take health and are not at 100%. Their big thing is at 79% of their health, 49% of their health, and 29% of their health. Each mask enters flame mode and gains pink flames shooting out of their masks, which gives them massive HP regen. And every time you act or they act, they get HP regen, and it's really, really pain in the butt. And it also drains party members, does HP damage to party members, I believe. If they're both in flame mode, they both regen. It can be up to 86,000 a turn, depending on, I think, your debuffs on them. They have to be launched to break that. So the only way to do that is to launch them, so you need launchers. So you need somebody to heal, you need somebody to do debuffs, you need somebody to launch. All of their they're all attacks an AoE HB attack. Their recast is single target, and they just continue to do damage to you. So they have been a tricky opponent for quite a few people. Ideally, for your burst characters, well, I mean, let's just be honest. I have not seen a run without Paladin, Cecil, Cloud, or Ramza. So if you don't have one of those three characters, now if you're in chat and saying, no, I did it like this, great. Let us know. Submit it to the Call to Arms, because right now on the Call to Arms, there are 40 videos. None of them do not have Paladin, Cecil, Ramza, or Cloud. So all three of those are possible. So, make sure. Yeah, I mean, yes, if you don't, if you're that person saying, well, I did it without those three, yes, please, because there might be somebody who needs to hear that. I am telling you right now, among the 40 people who have uploaded videos on the Call to Arms, there's not one clear without Paladin, Cecil, Cloud, or Ramza. There are BT list clears, but there is not one without those. Kais comes into handy here. Gabranth comes into handy. Now, if you can do a run without Paladin, Cecil, Cloud, Ramza, Kais, or Gabranth, I would be truly, truly impressed. I don't know that would be possible, but maybe it is. If you look on the Call to Arms, just in terms of the characters, Paladin, Cecil, Gabranth. Paladin, Cecil's number 1, Gabranth number 2, Ramza number 3, Kais number 4, Cloud number 5, Vincent is number 6, Xdeath number 7, Gladiolus number 8, Arciella number 9, Kuja, Lightning, Noctis, Ultimisha, Machina 8, and a few others are just kind of one use each. So, but yeah. No, CSDX, you can submit each run separately. Yep, you submit each one separately. So, if you want to submit one to Crucible 1, Crucible 2, Reckoning, you have to send them all differently. So yeah, if you just want to do Reckoning, fine. What's your run, CSDX, for Reckoning? I didn't catch it before if you shared it. So please let us know what it is. I would like to know that. Give our viewers some insight. Onion Knight, Kais, Arciella. Okay, great. Okay, very interesting.
That's actually really good.
That's a really great team. So, I mean, again, obviously, Onion Knight's bringing the burst, so there you go. So he's bringing the synergy, but Kais and Arciella. So, I mean, again, Kais and Arciella, a lot of people are like, oh, I don't need them. They're really good. And, okay, so Onion Knight is an option if you don't have Paladin, Cecil, Cloud, or Ramza, and then Kais and Arciella. So great. No, I appreciate that, CSDX. That's a great run. So, but you can see, as I said, I think Paladin, Cecil, and I can include Arciella. Paladin, Cecil, Cloud, Ramza, Kais, Gabranth, Arciella, definitely on there, with some other variations as well. So, yeah, you see, I used Paladin, Cecil, Cloud, Gabranth. I think that's pretty much the standard team. I think that's probably the most frequent team. Arrow, who did you use?
I did Ramza, Arciella, Kais, because I hate Wave 1 a lot. Wave 2 isn't a big deal to me. It's just HP silence with Arciella to me. But seriously, Wave 1, screw that fight. Screw that. They were trying so hard to sell Gabranth. It makes me mad. I don't know. If you've probably beaten the first 2 Crucibles, you've clearly got the tools to probably tackle this fight between your 6 characters. That's pretty much all I can add to this. I know Kreese hasn't done the fight, so I'm going to go ahead and just pass it to Mino at this point. Yeah. Mino, do you have anything extra to add?
Yeah, fuck this fight. People really, 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 really do not realize how much synergy bias this fight is, because anytime somebody came into any of the streams or even like my own stream and they were like, oh, this fight was easy. I used Pestle, Gabranth, and Kaisa Ramza or something. And I'll be like, and then they're watching my fight because I refuse to pull Gabranth. First of all, that recast on the second wave, it will flat out kill you, any character, if you aren't stacking insane mitigation. So that means not Pestil's, what is it? He's like minus 50% brave damage taken on his LD and minus 30% HP damage taken. Right, Chad? If you want to correct those numbers, that's what he's bringing to the fight. That is not enough to survive the recast. You need to stack something else on top of that shit. Unless you have Pestle and Gabranth or Gladio, you're not surviving the recast. The only other way to do it is to HP silence them and never let them get a recast off. This is such a bullshit recast that, me read for mitigation no need for mitigation if they're silenced. Right. They're like, you can't survive this recast. There's such a narrow way to survive it that you either need the perfect characters or you need to not let them have a turn. Because this recast...
can I step in real quick? Yeah. I did actually eat the recast one time, the single target one, Inferno Plus or whatever, and you can live it, but you got to be over 50% with the team I used.
Wait, what team you used?
The HP for the bosses needs to be over the 50% mark. Once they go under 50%,
yes.
if you get hit with that shit, you're dead.
Yeah,
that's
you're
it.
Dead.
Run's done. Yeah. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. You can continue, Mino.
And the synergy bias is hilarious. So when people come in and they're like, "Oh, this was an easy fight," and then they're watching runs without Gabranth, they don't realize the difference. Gabranth's attack down really makes a difference as well as the HP. Like the percentages, they all stack up. Without Gabranth, anyone who's only run this with Gabranth, try that fight without Gabranth. The wheels are hitting 9999 on every hit. Like you're getting broken no matter what. You're dying no matter what. Like the bias is ridiculous, and it's so funny to watch all these people who stomp this with the perfect team. They go into these streams and they're like, "Why are you taking so much damage?" They're like, "Oh, waves 2 is easy. I had Pestle and Gabranth. They were doing 2k a hit. Take Gabranth out of there. Just have Pestle, even with his 50% brave damage mitigation." And chat corrected me, it's 20% HP mitigation. They're one-shotting you, and they're breaking you, no matter what.
Yeah.
Like, Mark, you just came back, but we're saying run this without Gabranth, even with just Pestle. If you're not stacking insane mitigation, you're dead. They're hitting you for max damage every brave hit. Like, that's how big of a difference Gabranth makes, and it's actually disgusting.
Oh yeah, Gabranth and Paladin Cecil work really nice together, and yeah, you don't probably notice how much damage these things do, if you have all that damage mitigation, right?
Freya guy brought Freya. What's Freya? Does Freya have mitigation on that? Oh, we'll address the chat a little later, but yes. First of all, everyone's bringing Pestle. I don't think very few people didn't, like CSDX, but I think he went the HP silence route with Arciella.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to eat these hits, you need Pestle plus Gabranth, or it's not gonna fucking work. It is fucking ridiculous. This fight is such bullshit. They do so much goddamn damage that you need to stack both synergy mitigations to even survive this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the call to arms, I mean, there's a lot of Paladin Cecil, and there's a lot of Gabranth. I mean, that's just the vast majority of people used Paladin Cecil. There are runs without Paladin Cecil that included, again, Arciella, Ramza. I don't know if there's a Cloud run without Ramza. There are several Ramza runs. Ramza, Reno, Noctis, Palad did that. Kuja, Ramza, Arciella, Leviax did that. Lightning, Arciella, Ramza, Theologica did that. Ramza, Vincent, it's Paladin Cecil. I mean, obviously, I mean, just the vast majority are Paladin Cecil. Ramza, Arciella, Kais, Arrow, she just shared that. So, yeah, I mean, yeah. So again, Tonberry Troupe, Ink talked about it last night, but they put out a thing in their guide that said, hey, if you run through this with this exact team and call it easy, guess what? you're doing exactly what the game wants you to do. You're pulling on the exact characters they want you to bring because those are the characters they're showcasing, and good job. That's what you did. Like, I'm not saying this is an easy fight with those characters. It still takes some skill, but if you don't, it's got to be a much more difficult fight. Unless you're bringing these very different characters. And again, if you didn't have Paladin, Cecil, and Gabranth, you better have had Ramza and Arcella. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we're talking about, right? There's some combination of these characters, these newer characters that you needed to beat this content. So that means it's restrictive, and that means it's difficult. So, yeah, don't be a jerk, obviously. And if someone's struggling with it, I mean, our Discord's, I think, pretty cool about it. Trying to help people, trying to give people different ideas. That's why we work with Macnol, do the call to arms, just try to give people, more options to beat this content. So, yeah. All right, well, we got some other things to talk about. So good luck on Dimension's End. If you're struggling, again, it's permanent content. Take your time. I will jump to the podcast polls really quick. Gabranth across 9 servers. Again, podcast polls are via MateriaBot. Quetzalma support MateriaBot. Awesome resource. And it's available on our Discord to use, so check that out. 2 people willing to pity Paladin Cecil's BT. 18, willing to pity the LD. 4 using gems. 118 using tickets, and 29 skipping. I bet those numbers went up since Transcendence hit, and since a couple days have passed, and people have not updated that.
Wait, how many people skipping? 29, you said?
29 skipping as of when the podcast polls was active, but I'm guessing those numbers
have hilarious.
Increased.
I know, like, that's just cementing my assumption that people... It makes me so sad when I go on Facebook and I see people post their clears and they have, like, less than 20k gems left because they grabbed Gabranth and Pestle. Like, holy shit, guys, you're screwed. This is a short-term victory. You're gonna, like, Ramuh's pretty fucking restrictive too. It's only this. It's never gets. I guess it slightly gets easier, but I really have to say it. And Macnol posts this meme all over the place. Is that, like, shit? What was it? God damn it! It was the Mad Max meme, right?
Oh yeah.
But basically, the summary is that synergy bias is a crutch. Yeah. Don't become addicted to it, or you're gonna start resenting its absence.
Yeah.
Like, if you can't learn how to not beat the hard fights with the team that the game makes you want to do, you're gonna burn out. And I honestly say this, like, not in an elitist way of, oh, you can't even do a TCC challenge. It's, please, there's a lot of players that I like that are gonna burn out because you cannot realistically always have synergy for every tough event. You can't do it. And I've seen good players leave because of this.
Yeah. Right?
Like, poor Vayne Novus, or who else did we have that was, like, really good that just couldn't keep pulling anymore?
Yeah.
There's a lot of really good players that just eventually you hit a wall if you keep having to pull on everything to do content. Eventually you're going to become one of those people who are complaining about Loof Plus, saying, why can't I beat this with full synergy teams?
Retro Gamer Dad is saying the Chaos fight is not permanent. Yes, there is a challenge fight. That is the exact same fight for Reckoning. That's a CQ. Oh, yeah. So there's a total of 4 burst tokens.
That's in the events panel.
So that's in the events. Correctly. That is only 2 weeks. So that is not permanent content. And so you do that. It's a Chaos, so it's much easier. And Retro Gamer's Dad says, what if you can't beat these fights with synergy? And that's true. These are not easy fights, even if you have the exact teams that we talked about. Just because, these are Lufania fights, they will take some time, and they may take a few resets to do. One of the fun things is, the people who play these fights over and over and over again, there's a reason they're so good at them. Because if you play, if you take one Lufania and you do it for 40 hours, you become accustomed to what the bosses are going to do. You learn the fights. Just like in any other Final Fantasy game you've played, those fights that you struggled with, You do it over and over again. You get more used to it. Or even those games where you've just played it so many times, you know how to do the boss. Think of like Ocarina of Time or Super Mario 64 or even like Super Mario Brothers. I mean, there's games you've played so much, you just get used to it. So I think a lot of it, so much time. A lot of it is just taking the time. And, all of our skill levels are different as well, too. I don't consider myself particularly good, at the game. But, I played enough and I've been playing it for 3 years that, yeah, with the right team, I can usually get through content without any issue. I've never not gotten through content, except for Vanilla Lost Chapter when it came out, I think was and I didn't have the, pretty restrictive teams that you needed at that time. Vane Novus is taking a break from the game in the Tonberry Troupe. He's in school working, he's doing fine. Great guy. So, he's stepped away from the game for his own well-being and all that kind of stuff. So hey, we got
Anomander killed him and took his place. let's not lie. Tonberry Troupe can go suck.
Yes, Anomander is now part of the Tonberry Troupe, so you can shout out to Anomander.
Yeah, anyone who's been paying attention noticed that he's now green in their server and Vane's gone. But no, sorry, Mark. It's just I wanted to cut in because I also wanted to answer Retro Gamer Dad with another take. Is if you can't beat the hardest content without synergy, just stop trying to beat yourself up about doing the hardest content. There's nothing. There's a lot of people in JP. I know a lot of more casual JP players who don't touch Lufania Plus and just do Lufania and they're happy. I know players in our server who only do chaoses and have a blast with the game because they're no longer stressing about pulling meta or keeping up. They're like, oh, I'm using my favorite characters and doing content. It's okay to not do the end game content. Nobody plays the hardest difficulty on every video game they play. I know a lot of you guys don't fucking boot up a Final Fantasy and start doing challenge runs, or you play like Doom or something and go highest difficulty, or you play MMOs. A lot of FF14 players here. Not everyone's doing progression savage rating. Like, I don't know what the mentality is when it comes to gacha, but everyone is so fine with not doing the hardest content in other games. So why is there this peer pressure in this community to always do the hardest content? It's perfectly fucking okay not to touch that shit, and it's okay to not be like, it's stressful. As Mark said, a lot of different skill levels out there. This is just to challenge the nerds that can't leave the game, who are like, what am I going to do in these 3 days to the next event? Like, hardest content is built for these people, these crazy people who are like, this is the only game they play. So it's okay to skip it. It's fucking.
But yeah, I mean, as Illuminasa is saying, I mean, watch people like Arrow and Mino streams, and Mino's done help streams where he's just gotten on and taken the characters people had and kind of ran them through things. There's a lot of streamers. That's why we have the call to arms. Watch some of those videos and really kind of see. I mean, I used to watch Vane Novus just to kind of see there were certain characters he played really well. If you want to learn how to play Lightning, Soul Defo really knows how to play Lightning well. If you watch him play Lightning, you're like, oh, wow, I never even thought, to do this in that order or to react to this by doing this. And so as much as I hate watching run videos, I don't really like it at all. You actually do learn something by watching other people play because people think differently than you do. People interact with things differently. I mean, Arrow, definitely thinks differently than I do and anybody else on our show, and that's how she comes up with these awesome runs. And she's able to do that. And so I mean that's it. And it does suck. I mean, it sucks if you've been playing since day one and you struggle on the hardest content. And like Mino said, I don't think you have to feel bad about it. Invest some time and try to get better. And if you hit a wall, at the end of the day, it's just a game. If you're not having fun, don't feel bad about it, and do something that you do feel good at. So it's okay. It's okay to stop.
So I don't know if we're at a time. Retro Gamer has a response that I'd like to read as well. He's saying it's ego in his case. I've played almost since launch. I have all the gear. I see newer players with the purple plates. While I can't beat the chaos, it feels shameful. And, I think I threw this theory out like last year. I used to say it on the podcast a lot, and the BC is that DFFOO started very easy, and I think it's playing the long con because synergy bias, right? It's very easy. In the beginning, you've got these GL first or these meta characters that carry you for months, right? And I think Mark or Kreese said this before on an earlier podcast, saying like Aranea ruined the game for a lot of people because they were able to just stomp content with no thought. And then it just got like the synergy bias is just so easy. Like the game, the divide between being able to crush content with synergy and without, the divide is huge. And a lot of people don't want to bother trying without synergy. And it makes you addicted to victory. And then the second your resources or your luck dries up and you can't get synergy for the next tough event, suddenly that's what's going to make you want to pull out the wallet and be like, well, I'm not going to let this one fight be the black mark on my record.
But it's also, the content is also more difficult. So, I mean, talking about Transcendence, you have to have launches, and you need to know when to launch. You have to have breakers, instant breakers, gravity. You need to know when to use them. You need to deal with the orbs. And so there are 3 or 4 mechanics you're juggling as opposed to just hitting Aranea's HP plus over and over again. Like or using lightning and completely ignoring the fight mechanics. We've had Lufanias where you can pretty much ignore the fight mechanics, right? Definitely. Definitely.
And I want
to butt in, guys, real quick.
Sure.
There's a couple things I've been wanting to say. So, number one, I talked about this in my Reckoning video, but what you see on YouTube and like Twitch and stuff, well, YouTube especially, are the successful runs. Understand that. There might have been a lot of attempts to get to that successful run. Part of learning how to really understand the mechanics of this game is to try and fail. I tried and failed tons in C50 era. You have no idea how much failure I went through in C50 era. It was wild. But the moment C60 hit, something clicked for me. I suddenly knew, I understood basic mechanics at that point, and I started to succeed. So part of that for me was watching successful people run content. And I'm talking all kinds of stuff, in both versions of the game, and seeing, wait, why did they run that team comp? Or try to figure out why they might have picked a move they picked without, these were videos without commentary. If they have commentary, sometimes they'll explain to you why they made those picks. This is all part of the learning process. This game's gotten really deep and like nuanced over this past like year, especially since Lufenia's hit. And it's really hard to do content without synergy bias, without understanding, I feel like, game mechanics. So what you see on YouTube, don't get disheartened because you saw somebody succeed on YouTube. That is a successful run. Yeah. You don't know how many hours. Sometimes I put hours into that successful run. I want to stress that. And I know other people do too.
And that I think that's a great point. And to what Retro Gamer Dad is saying, again, it is time. It is a time investment. And so, I mean, today, one of the reasons I don't upload runs is because I can rarely, if I would upload runs, I would just want to upload the run without any hassle. I don't have a lot of free time to do this, so that's why I do what I do. But I rarely am able to sit and play for an entire Lufania without interrupted. So I spent about 2 hours this morning going through Crucible 1, Crucible 2, and Reckoning. And that a 2 hour period. It was from 10 o'clock to noon. And I just know that because I happened to start at 10 and finish at noon. But during that time, I got calls and texts from my wife. Somebody was at my house, and so I got up. I used the bathroom. I ate. I was drinking coffee. So I mean, I stopped quite a few times during those 2 hours. But that being said, that was a 2 hour chunk of time that I knew I needed to be able to do those fights. And that's just doing the fights. That wasn't learning them or, I'd already looked, and kind of planned what I was going to do going into it. So, yeah, I mean, if you don't have a ton of time to devote to the game, and this is just a 15-minute a day kind of game, then let it just be a 15-minute a day kind of game, and don't worry about Lufania. Don't worry about Transcendence, and just enjoy the game for what it is. We got
I
a
agree.
lot. We got a lot of other stuff to cover. I just want to cover some of it briefly. Because it just becomes unwieldy for me to upload a 2.5, 3 hour stream. Spring Festival, that's our next news. Co-ops, there's a level 70, level 150 co-op. Lightning, Squall, and Cloud are synergy for this event. We got the Start Dash renewal. So the Start Dash banner has been renewed. It now includes LDs and BTs. As soon as you log on, you have 7 days, and that banner will be gone. You get a free draw. And you get your free ticket for however. Character Enhancement Support Campaign. I don't even think I had the other free draws with this. I'll have to go back. So Cloud, Squall, Lightning are double XP, and they are ultimate boosts, which that is the language now. I thought it was special synergy or special boosted. It's ultimate boost, according to this little in-game notice. So super synergy for ultimate trials. There's a novice is the word I was looking for. Novice support chocobo panel mission for Cloud, Lightning, Squall. There's a lot of chocobo panel missions. There's one for Cloud, Lightning, and Squall. You need to do 40 times with them and you get their equipment. And then there is other ones. World of Illusion support chocobo missions where you have to run each of the ultimate summons 3 times. There are 3 different chocobo, so there's 4 new chocobo panel missions just for that. I'm going to get to the 5th one. There is half stamina for trials, 500 or 5,000 enhancement points when you crystal strength Cloud to level 50. There is a spring gigantar. It has a flower on its head. Spring sales, Mog stickers, pick those up. World of Illusions.
The notable thing for the Spring Gigantar, by the way, is you can't solo it. You have to do it as a group.
Oh, really?
Wait, what? The spring one?
You can. Well, you can solo it, but it at least when I was doing it earlier, it forced me to go to run it as a co-op.
Oh,
I think that's happened to me before. I think you have
Is it
overlapping calls or a call equipped of someone in the party. That blocks out the solo option.
Okay.
Check that. I'm curious.
I'll have to take a look. I've already spent all of my things today, so I'll have to check tomorrow.
There's also a Spring Festival panel mission. So there's a lot of chocobo missions. So make sure if you look on, here's the Spring Festival, beat the Cactars, beat the Gigantars, Magic Pots. You got to run all that. Use the support item, 5 co-ops. It's not terrible. So that's one. Then there's the support mission, World of Illusion Support 1, World of Illusion Support 2, World of Illusion Support 3, and then the Novice support missions as well. So lots of chocobo panels all at once. Cycle Quest rewards ×2 for a while as well. Now, what's more important, Lightning, Cloud, and Squall all got their LD boards, and Squall got a rework. So, Kreese, why don't you run us through all 3 of those characters, and I'll run them through World of Illusions.
I'm going to do these things quickly, and Mino, you're right. It was because I had duplicate calls equipped. You're right. I didn't even notice that was what was going on. I'm going to do Lightning first because she got almost nothing changed. She got some more Brave Overflow on her LD. It hits a little harder. She gets a Brave gain based on HP damage dealt after the first HP dump before the following into the second, and that's about it. Her LD just says a little harder. That's all that she got. Nothing really to say. She's as good as she always was. Cloud got a couple tweaks. He now has 2 HP dumps on Blade Beam. He now gets a new new overhead buff whenever he deals a critical hit called Cloudy Wolf that increases physical attack, max brave, and HP damage dealt while it is up. It lasts for 3 turns whenever he deals a critical hit. Since he almost is always dealing a critical hit, it will almost always be up. So that's pretty nice. I have not had a lot of time to experiment with him. His LD definitely hits a lot harder, and the Cloudy Wolf thing is pretty much up all the time, from my understanding.
Yeah, it would be very strange if it fell off, and if it did, then you just press a button. I think in my 2 runs of the Lufanias, because I did them post LD boards, I don't think it was ever below 3. I mean, he crits almost every time he attacks, so.
Any thoughts on that are worth mentioning, or are we just gonna run along? Because, as I said, we're almost at the 2-hour mark.
Yeah,
already.
no, just go through all three of them, and we can give our opinions of them.
Okay.
And there is a poll currently, Crease. Thank you for setting that up. So there's a poll in chat. If you're watching, make sure you check that out. Which BT should Mark get right now? So make sure you voted. Not all of you have voted. Right now, Warrior of Light is in the running, so you can choose, and I will pull on stream. Warrior of Light, Ultimecia, or Lightning. It has to be one that I do not have, and I will pull, or I will buy it on the BT shop. So yeah, keep going on there.
Squall is the only character out of this batch that actually got a sizable rework along with their his LD boards. So he got a lot more ability uses for both Solid Barrel and Renzakuken. Solid Barrel now has 2 HP dumps associated with it. He has a single target HP dump, followed by a Brave Gain based on HP damage dealt, followed by another single target HP dump that deals HP splash damage based on total HP damage dealt. Renzakuken now has more ability uses. Rough Divide now makes it so that Roaring Hammer causes a follow-up after so now his LD causes a follow-up on all HP attacks, HP damage dealt that he deals. So basically, every time he deals an attack, he now deals an AoE Brave plus single target HP attack with 50% splash damage on it. So yeah, Squall is just a lot better. He also has Roaring Hammer now boosts HP damage dealt. He's just much stronger now. Everything is now 2 HP dumps. He's always dealing HP splash damage. His EX is a massive single target HP dump and it deals splash damage and is an AoE. He's always dealing AoE Brave damage because of his follow-up. He's always dealing AoE HP damage because of his splash. He's much stronger now, from my understanding. Yeah, it's much more solid. He got the biggest change. That was
a nice pun. Much more solid.
Yeah, much more solid.
Yeah.
Okay. I have not had as much time to experiment with these as other people have. Arrow, what are your thoughts?
All goes brr. Yeah, I love it. I've already enjoyed Rough Divide as an LD before. Now it's even better. Guys, he is like the AoE king for sure at this point. I think the only other person that might compete for AoE, raw AoE damage is Vivi. And I'm not sure, I haven't had enough time to go check into that, who would actually do more in a fight. But my thought is probably Squall because he's got a BT. Anyway, great character. I love that Cloud got double dumps on the LD. Now it matches with the rest of his kit, doing double or triple dumps depending on the skill you use. Feels good. And Lightning, no opinion because I didn't build Lightning. Screw her. Anyway, I'm gonna pass it over to I think Mino.
They're okay. Cloud's fine. His usability is extended a bit. Squall's fine. The BT effect is a big concern because it's just nowhere near as good as the ones coming up, or like Pestles or even Lightning. Like the BT effect is a big kind of minus if you're thinking about just BTs to bring. He brings raw damage, and that's amazing for fights with 3 targets and stuff. But I know we memed this a lot on the Discord about him just being DPS, but he really doesn't check any orbs. And single target, his DPS is pretty good. He's viable single target now, but there are others who are more specialized towards it for sure, and who also check orbs. But I'll agree with Arrow when it comes to AoE. He's top of the game. I don't really have much to say. These really just extended their usability, which is basically what it's meant to be. It's the same with like the next banner that comes back with Transcendence too, right? With Pestle, Warrior of Light, and Sephiroth. It extends their usability, but the average player is not going to be using them to carry or riding them very long in the future. There are niche cases. People are like pointing at Stimpy who runs Squall a lot, etc. But these are niche cases. I know most of you guys are sheep, so you're not going to be running these people. You're going to be spamming synergy, just like you did on Transcend. So don't try to tell me Squall's a god now, and you're going to be using him for the next 3 months, because you're a liar. But no, really, for people who enjoy using these characters, you can use them a little longer, perfectly fine. But I really, really, truly believe that most people are just going to play with newer toys anyway, right, Mark? Like, Mark, you're going to pull the next couple months and use the new toys like Celeste and Ishtola and Emperor, etc. over these characters.
Yeah. I will use Squall because he's my favorite character, and I will get some more use out of him. And there's not a ton of huge damage dealers. Now we have some magic damage dealers coming with Emperor, so obviously when you have the BT damage dealer, you're probably going to use them. But during the Ishtola cycle, yeah, why not? And there again, besides big magic damage dealers, our next big physical damage dealer is Garland. Trey's ranged. Just pure melee is Garland. So yeah, I mean, obviously Squall has proven himself fairly. Who's bringing Yish over Squall? Not a lot of people.
No. Honestly, we can laugh all we want, but Ish is gonna help with 3-4 challenge quests and check all the orbs. 2 of the orbs in her cycle are healing more than 50% HP in one go.
But one of those is a boss rush, and she's not particularly helpful for that.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I've heard she's not particularly helpful on Trey's Lost Chapters. So
who's bringing Emperor over Squall? Anyone farming Ramu Divine boards.
But but let's say if you are, I'm pulling on Emperor. I already have Emperor. So am I going to use Emperor? Yeah, probably. But if you don't, like if you're taking next month as a month off, you have Paladin Cecil, you have Squall, you have Onion Knight, you have Squall, you have, Paladin Cecil and Squall is a nice combo. Are you going to be okay? Can you take one of these characters and get through a little bit more? If you have Vincent, you don't need to pull ever again because he's great. But Squall is obviously the winner of the 3. He gets the most, but they're all useful. They're all still good. There's some longevity, but yeah, you still need to deal with the orb. You still need to, he is DPS. Arguing whether AoE is better than single target. The vast majority of our fights are against multiple targets, so I would generally prefer AoE damage as opposed to single target damage, although Tifa's pretty awesome. But yeah, even Lightning, I generally don't prefer the single damage dealers to the AoE damage dealers. That's just personally. I would rather do equal damage than kind of go back and forth like a character like Lightning. But
fact
a
correction. I think I said that banner comes back on Transcendence 2. BC is saying in chat that's Transcendence 3. So yeah, even more down the line. The second rerun of these LD boards, the older BTs.
Yeah. But it is awesome. It is awesome to see Squall get all those follow-ups, and it makes playing him a lot more fun. So yeah, why not? And he's going to burn through. All those hard nodes, especially with Auto Plus. So that's going to be great. You're not going to have to worry about story chapters or lost chapters. Even Cosmos. He's going to be able to burn through Cosmos without any problem. So that's going to be nice. And other characters are as well. So it's not just Squall. So yeah, enjoy them. Should you pull for them? I guess that's one of the questions. If you don't have any of them, is this a good banner? It's generally better to pull on newer characters than on older characters. So when older characters get their reworks, LD boards, basically, unless you're a brand new character, if you just started the game, yeah, this is a great banner. It's going to give you 3 LDs and 3 BT options. So yeah, try, focus on one of them and try to get as much of the gear as you can. Invest a little bit in this, and it's going to help you out as you're clearing content. But if you're a veteran and you missed a couple of them, you can probably live without them. Obviously, if you're going to chase one, Squall is probably going to be more useful. But, we don't know what BT pluses are going to come along. Lightning is really good on Tier 2 of Transcendence. So, yeah, don't use here. But, hey, the poll did end. And the winner for the winner was Warrior of Light, not Ultimecia. So that's 50 tokens. So I got that up on screen just so you see that I'm actually going to do this. Exchange 50 tokens for Sunblade, Warrior of Light's Burst, and that is yes. So I have used 50 tokens, and now I have one more burst weapon. Now I'm only missing 2. So, and I have 0 burst tokens, so I'll have to wait. I know how many months. Oh wait, don't look at that screen. How many months until I get claim my? Oh yes, CSAM wants me to claim. I can't claim them yet. I'll have to do it. I have 4 days left to claim these premium Google Pass tokens. And I have a lot of BT tokens sitting in my inbox too, and I haven't even claimed the ones from Transcendence. Anyway, we'll hang on for the post show for a little bit, but just to let you know what's coming up. Thank you all for joining us. It's a lot of fun tonight. March 30th is Divine Ramu, which is Emperor and Celeste. Then there is the Aerith banner. We don't know quite when that will hit. Eldnarsh Lost Chapters on April 5th. Arenea's event, she's a new character, remember, is on the 8th. Then there's Heretics on the 14th with Y'shtola. And Y'shtola and who else? Kuja. LD again, if you missed that and really wanted it. Then there is potentially some event with Sarah, campaign event with Sarah, we don't know. Trey's Lost Chapter on the 19th, and then Boss Rush on the 23rd with Waka, who doesn't suck. Sorry, I went and said Waka sucks. He does. You're not going to pull him, so don't.
I'm not gonna
pretend you're gonna pull Waka.
I'm not gonna pull.
Yeah, don't. You're not maining Waka.
If I have to.
To be fair, Mark, I don't pull anybody.
That's true. You haven't pulled since ever.
Yeah.
Mino has 9 million gems. So, well,
nice.
Oh yes, you wanted to say something to that?
No.
Okay. Well, for Arrow, for Mino, for Kreese, and myself, this has been episode 145 of the Crystal Chronicles, brought to you on March 25th, 2021. Thank you all for the gift subs. Thank you for the support. TCC Podcast for all your links to social media, our Discord. If you're watching on YouTube, like, sub, ring the bell for notifications. If you're watching on Twitch, please consider subbing, liking, following us and subbing to support the podcast. If you are listening to the podcast, rate us on Apple or Google Play, and so we always appreciate that. Until next time, friends, good luck on all of your Emperor pulls and Celeste pulls and your Divine board grinds. Until then, enjoy all of your Auto Plus farming with Squall, Lightning, and Cloud, and good luck on Transcendence. We'll see you next week.